You finally have a moment. No deadlines. No emergencies. Nothing urgent demanding your attention. You sit down. You take a breath. You tell yourself, okay, relax. You have permission. Everything is fine. And your brain says, no, not loudly, not with drama, just a quiet, persistent, completely uninvited refusal to let go. A low hum of something. A restlessness that has no source. The feeling that you should be doing something, checking something, worrying about something, even when there is genuinely nothing that needs your attention right now. And the harder you try to relax, the more awake and unsettled you feel. If this is familiar, and for most people in the modern world, it is extremely familiar, you are not anxious in the clinical sense. You are not broken. You are experiencing something so deeply wired into the human brain that it has its own name, its own neuroscience, and a reason that goes back hundreds of thousands of years before the concept of a relaxing afternoon ever existed. Let's start with what your brain actually is. Not what it feels like from the inside. What it structurally, functionally is. Your brain is not a thinking machine that occasionally has feelings. It is a survival machine that occasionally does thinking. Every single process it runs, attention, emotion, memory, decision-making, is ultimately in service of one objective: keeping you alive long enough to pass on your genes. Everything else is secondary, including your comfort, including your peace, including your ability to sit on a Sunday afternoon and simply exist without your nervous system treating it like a suspicious situation. The default state of the human brain is not calm. It is vigilance, scanning, monitoring. The calm you are trying to access is not your brain's natural resting state. It is something you have to actively create, against the current, against the grain of a system that was never designed to stop looking for problems. Neuroscientists have a name for what your brain does when it isn't focused on a task. They call it the default mode network. And for a long time, scientists assumed that when people weren't doing anything specific, the brain was simply resting, idling, taking a break. It is doing the opposite. When you are not focused on an external task, the default mode network activates. It begins running a series of internal processes that feel, from the inside, like a mind that won't stop. It reviews the past, running through recent events, looking for things that went wrong, things that might still need addressing. It simulates the future, running scenarios of what might happen, what could go wrong, what you should prepare for. It processes social dynamics, replaying interactions, analyzing relationships, calculating where you stand with the people in your world. None of this feels like rest because none of it is rest. It is work. Intensive, automatic, largely unconscious work that your brain performs specifically during the moments you are trying not to think about anything. The idle mind is not empty. It is the busiest version of your brain. There is something else driving this that almost nobody talks about. Something psychologists call ego depletion and attention restoration. The modern world makes genuinely extreme demands on a particular kind of mental resource, directed attention. The focused, controlled, effortful concentration required to work, to respond, to be productive, to perform. Every hour of directed attention spent depletes a finite pool of mental energy. And the way that pool restores, the way genuine mental recovery actually happens, is not through passive relaxation in the way most people attempt it. Sitting and telling yourself to stop thinking does not restore directed attention. What restores it, according to the research, is involuntary attention, the soft, effortless engagement that happens in natural environments. Walking in a park, watching water, looking at an open sky. Activities that gently occupy the lower attention systems without demanding the higher ones. This is why scrolling your phone while lying on the couch does not feel restful. It feels like more work in a horizontal position. Your brain is still being demanded of by notifications, by content, by the constant micro-decisions of what to watch next. The pool is not refilling. It is quietly continuing to drain. And then there is the layer that sits below all of this. The one that is perhaps the most important and the least discussed. For many people, particularly people who have spent significant portions of their lives in high-stress environments, the nervous system has been trained to treat calm as dangerous. Not consciously, not deliberately, but through repeated experience. The brain has learned that stillness is often the calm before something goes wrong, that the moments of peace have historically been interrupted, that lowering your guard during quiet periods is how you get caught off guard when things inevitably shift. So when you finally have nothing to worry about, when the environment is genuinely safe and still, your nervous system doesn't relax into it. It treats the stillness with suspicion. It stays alert. It keeps scanning. Because somewhere in its deep patterning, it has learned that peace is temporary and preparation is permanent. So what actually works? Not what feels like it should work. What the research says actually restores the brain and quietens the system that won't switch off. The answer is not effort, not trying harder to relax, not forcing stillness onto a system that treats forced stillness as another demand. The answer is environment and permission. Moving into spaces and activities that engage involuntary attention gently. Nature, movement, simple physical tasks with no performance component. And giving the brain explicit permission to not produce anything. Not to solve, not to optimize, not to be ready. Just to be. This does not come easily to a brain that has been rewarded its entire life for being useful, for producing, for staying alert. The first few attempts will feel uncomfortable. The brain will resist. It will generate tasks, generate worries, generate the familiar hum of something needing attention. That is not failure. That is the system doing what it has always done. Your brain is not broken for refusing to relax. It is extraordinarily good at the job it was built for. The problem is that the job it was built for, vigilance, scanning, preparation, never had an off switch. And the world you are trying to rest in never needed one before now.